From the oral history website, voicesofoklahoma.com, comes Voices of Sports Legends. It's a collection of events and interviews which sports historian Wayne McCombs recorded, preserved, and donated to voicesofoklahoma.com. You will hear A. Ray Smith, former owner of the then Tulsa Oilers baseball team, University of Tulsa football coach Glenn Dobbs, Jerry Weber, sports and news anchor for Channel 2 KJRH in Tulsa, Tulsa World sports writer Bill Connors, and Oklahoma State baseball coach Gary Ward. We are very grateful to Wayne McCombs for the preservation of these voices and stories that are heard now on voicesofoklahoma.com.
A. Ray Smith was a longtime baseball executive, best known for his ownership of the minor league Tulsa Oilers franchise, which he later moved to Louisville, Kentucky. From 1963 to 1966, Smith also owned a tenth of the Cleveland Indians. He was a native of Texas, but made his fortune in the construction trade in Tulsa. Sports historian Wayne McCombs interviewed Smith as he talked about people such as Tulsa personalities Matt Krieger and Lynn Morton, and others like Satchel Paige, Gene Autry, Warren Spahn, and Winston Churchill. And he told his secret of hot dogs. A. Ray Smith was 84 when he died June 28, 1999. Listen to this fascinating man in an interview recorded June 11, 1997 for Voices of Sports Legends and heard on the Oral History website, voicesofoklahoma.com.
First off, A. Ray, where did you spend your childhood, and who was your favorite baseball idols as you grew up as a youngster?
Well, I spent most of my childhood in West Texas. My grandmother raised me, and but we had no schools. And nearest school on their property out in West Texas was Clovis, New Mexico, some 40, 50 miles away. So we had relatives in Indiana, so I would go on the Santa Fe train at Clovis come September and go to Indiana and spend the winter, go to school and come back the following spring.
Mm-hmm. Who'd you like as a youngster, and who'd you follow in baseball?
Well, there was so little publicity available in my childhood. But yes, it's easy because when I was a teenager, Joe Medwick is God, and of course Dizzy and Paul Dean and Pepper Martin. Those are when I was in high school. They were talk of the country.
Mm-hmm. And they came to Tulsa while you were at Tulsa. All of those men.
Well, later after the war, I moved to Dallas. Diz lived down the street 2 blocks from me for 15 years, and Paul ran a filling station on Preston Road, so I knew them well there. And then later on, and of course, Paul worked for us 10 years. Paul Dean, Paul and Dizzy Dean are no more two different individuals. Absolutely, incredibly different for brothers. Diz outgoing. Outlandishly outgoing. Diz was the quiet, studious type. Mm-hmm. I remember a story Paul told me in great detail. The 1934 World Series between Detroit and the St. Louis Cardinals. In those days, no TV. You had radio, of course, newspapers, great sports. So, Will Rogers was the 34 World Series. Mr. Henry Ford had asked Will Rogers, said he would just like to meet the Dean boys. So, Diz and Paul then were they were at the top of the heap as far as publicity is concerned. Mm-hmm. And so Will Rogers came to those two boys and said that Mr. Henry Ford would like to meet them. And would they consider going out to Mr. Ford's place, home, and the next morning, and sure, old Diz was ready to go then, of course. So he sent the car down and picked them up. And on the way out, Will Rogers said, "Now, Mr. Ford, quite a dignified fella, Diz, and I'd suggest that you kind of, respect the man." "Oh, yeah, partner, don't worry about that." So Paul tells the story. They walk in, and old Diz goes over and says, "How you doing, Henry boy? I just come out here to say hi to you this morning." And, and he laughed. So that really broke the ice. Uh-huh. They stayed there an hour and a half. And Mr. Ford, fascinated by them, gave them each a Ford automobile. But they had to agree to drive it home, which they didn't. So that was a kind of an interesting human interest story back between Paul and Diz. And then later on, there was neighbors all over here in Dallas. And Paul worked for me 10 years. Paul and Satchel were here at the same time with me. Pat Satchel Paige, the great Satchel Paige, none like him. I'll jump around here a little bit. I was driving down the road. We had no place to go from Tulsa when the stadium was condemned, really. Insurance, I could no longer buy insurance. And I drove all over the Midwest to find a place to play. And I finally agreed to go to New Orleans in that Superdome for a year, which is a complete disaster. I lost a lot of money in New Orleans, and I was baptized real good in the friendly South. But I had no place to go. It wasn't all that bad. I lost a rather substantial amount of money, but we survived. And then I took a month off and just drove over to the Midwest to find a place to play baseball that would fit the American Association. I tried Quad City. No, they didn't want to fool with it. I remember a newspaper editor that said, we don't want AAA baseball. Later he begged me to change, come on, but that's another story. So I stopped at Springfield, Illinois, and they had a little park there. And I spent 4 or 5 years playing baseball in Springfield. It was an interesting experience because it was a state capital. And all these newspaper people from Chicago coming in. Royko used to come out to ball games. That's a baseball. Quite a few times he'd come out and enjoy baseball at that level. So he liked it better than in Chicago. Royko was a great writer.
Yeah.
Did you ever read? Yeah. I thought he made the greatest remark about our friend from Australia, the newspaper tycoon.
Murdoch. He was working for the Daily News when Murdoch bought it out. And he just closed his desk, walked out, and went to the Tribune, which he said he'd never do, but he did. His opening story was, no self-respecting fish would ever be wrapped in a Murdoch paper. Now, that's got to be classic.
That's good.
Well, now, when you came to Tulsa, the team was owned by Grail Howlett in the mid-'50s, and they began to struggle in the mid-'50s when TV came in. And how did you get involved with Tulsa baseball in the late '50s?
Well, after the war, my company, I was president of a company in Dallas, owned by majority ownership, Merckx Brothers. We were asked to come and look at Gray Brothers, John Gray, Walter Gray, Charlie Gray. They owned companies here called Standard. They were quarrying business, ready-mix business, and we had a company over in Oklahoma City. We bought that out. We just call it Standard Industries, or that sort of thing. So I lived at the Mayo Hotel for a year, and I go, and I had a guy who worked for us, a gentleman who worked for us named Bert Ball, an old colonel in World War I. He lived at the old Tulsa Hotel. And they'd gather there in that bar in the evening. You were too young to remember the old Tulsa Hotel bar there. But Mayor Maxwell would be there, and Grail Howlett would never miss a night there. They all gather there in the evening for a couple of drinks and going home. I guess, I don't know, probably Prohibition then, but then they had the open bar. So I met Grail Howlett in there several times over the years. And then I was in Oklahoma City one night. We're negotiating a water project for the city of Oklahoma City. And I get a call from Grail Howlett that he had run into Mayor Maxwell, and he thought maybe I could help. And I said, Mr. Howlett, how could I help? I'm from the first place. I'm in Oklahoma City. Well, when you come home, I said, I'll be home tonight, but it'll be 10 or 11 o'clock. So I turned the televisions on that when I got home for 10 o'clock, no, 10:30, and they announced on the air
the Tulsa Oilers, after 75 years, will be moving to Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was on the board of trustees of the Loveless Clinic in Albuquerque, and I'd never been out there. I hadn't seen the paper about it, but he'd made a deal to move that franchise. So he called me at home, and I said, well, the news is just over. And I said, well, congratulations. I said, well, he said, it's really not too late if you have any interest at all, and I'd sure like to talk to you about it. And I said, well, fine. I have no particular interest, but I'll talk to you. He said, what time could we get together in the morning? And I said, well, let's meet at the Tulsa Club at 6 o'clock. He said, 6 o'clock? I said, yeah. He was a late sleeper. He was going to get up at 6 o'clock. Was out of their mind. So I met him at 6 o'clock at the Tulsa Club. Johnson was there. And so he came in, and I said, no. I knew him from the Tulsa Club, Mr. Howland. I didn't know him. I'd seen him, or down at that bar at the hotel. I'd seen him in there all the time. I said, why are you moving to Albuquerque? Well, he couldn't do anything else. He said, I'm broke. I have no fun. And I'm just through in Tulsa. Very candid. Mm-hmm. And he was really a good baseball man, how it was.
A lot of connections.
So I said, what would it take to keep it here? How much cash would it take to keep? He said, you can have it, and I'll guarantee you wouldn't lose. You put $25,000 in it, you'd lose no money. Well, I said, let's cut this short. I'll put up the $25,000, and you and me will be $50,000. We'll be 50-50 partners. Mm-hmm. You run it. I don't know anything about it. He said, well, why would you do that? I said, I don't know. I couldn't answer that question. So I called up, got this lady's predecessor, and I said, I'd like to have a certified check. It's a Grail Howlett for $50,000. $50,000, not $25,000. And I'd like to have it by 9 o'clock. She said, well, the bank don't open. I said, fine. Well, why? I said, she said, you lost your mind. I said, yep.
Now, this is in 1959.
60, 61 in there. I said, I guess so. So I got his check, and we're partners. So the press picked up on that like the end of World War II. And the Tribune had an 8-inch headline. I mean, it was just, and I left town. My wife called me in Houston and said, have you lost your mind? These phones ringing off the wall and people dropping by. It was really an instance that you couldn't plan that. Mm-hmm. But it had been leaving so long, all of a sudden here it's going to stay. Well, that's a big man in town, not desiring it, not deserving it, and didn't need it. But anyway, that's how it got in. And Grail and I were 50-50 partner. We were well received, and I spent about, I spent $100,000 redoing that old park out there. Mm-hmm. It was where it'd fall in. Mm-hmm. And but the public reacted. I sold a lot of season seats. I mean, I think he would sell 500, and we sold a couple of thousand season seats. Just people, got interested in them. Mm-hmm. And then we went. We had if you probably don't remember this, maybe before your time. We had an interleague.
The Pan American
series with the Mexican League. Mm-hmm. And we were on a trip down there, and I took my wife and youngest son and his pal. God, it was so cheap. You get a room for $5, whatever it was. The food wasn't very much. Whitey Karofsky's manager. Mm-hmm. And we filled those parks every night when we go out. And I didn't hardly see Grail. He disappeared, and I said, where were you last night? I was getting a mariachi band. I hired him to come play at the hotel after. And I had the ball club up, ball players up. Yeah. They enjoyed it all.
Yeah.
I didn't see much of Grail. So got back. I thought, well, he's something the matter with him. So I called him and I said, Mr. Howell, what? You weren't very cordial now. Is there something I've done to offend you in any way? He said, I've hated your guts since the morning I met you at the Tulsa Club. That was more than a body blow to me. I couldn't comprehend it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, if that's the way, we must separate now. There's no use waiting till tomorrow. Now, I want from you what I have spent renovating the park, one thing, and then I'll take a note from you. But I do want that with a mortgage on a franchise. Well, he said, why would you do that? I said, well, that's about all I can do in a situation. You, we can't operate with you hating my guts. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
How much time will you give me? I said, well, how much time will you take? Will you give me 48 hours? I said, how about 10 days? Then he said, well, why would you do that? I said, I wonder. I began answering him back.
Yeah.
He couldn't finance it. That's no bank in town. For some reason, he would got in trouble with him before. And one banker said, I got tired of seeing Grable Howlett walking around town with alligator shoes and a tin cup in his hand. Pretty good remark. So, anyway, I said, well, we just can't go on this way. He said, I'll give you the 10 days. And he couldn't do it. And after that, he said, I can't raise the funds. I said, well, I'll pay you $50,000 for your half. And he jumped at it right quick, and I did, and closed it. And then he moved to Cleveland immediately, and he got on their board, got a little stock from Gabe Paul, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And about a year, I get a call from Gabe Paul and said he'd like to reorganize up there, and upon a recommendation from Grable Howlett, he'd like to have me take an ownership position. And I bought 10%.
Yeah. Yeah, you were on the Cleveland Indians, and then in 61, you come in, and I remember this as a young child. You just fix up the park, make it red, white, and blue, and big cardinals on the proving ground of St. Louis Cardinals stars.
We just dressed it up.
And was really first class.
And it did. That was a fascinating old park. John Quinn, his grandfather owned the Boston Braves. He was a baseball man all his life. He was an advisor to Autry, the Angels. And he came in and spent a week, Autry sent him in. He says, this may be the most attractive baseball park at the minor league level in this country. Mm-hmm. He said it's quaint, it's attractive, it's just wonderful.
Yeah.
John Quinn told me that.
I still remember the first day I walked in as a child, and it was so clean and bright, and I remember reading about when the major leaguers would come in and play exhibition games, people like Leo DeRocher said that was the finest field they had ever played on. And, of course, that went a lot to you, and, of course, the old groundskeeper, John Tabor.
Oh, yeah, he was a master groundskeeper. And it was like a golf course is what it was. It was a remarkable playing field.
Can you tell me the story? Can you tell me the story about the chickens in the dugouts over the winter?
Well, I can't repeat. I can't recall that. I know a little something about it, but it was an interesting story. Why don't you give me a lead or two on that?
Well, John Tabor would take glass and cover the dugouts and put chickens in there in the winter.
That's right, yeah.
And he would take the manure and spread it over the field. He would put a tarp over it, and then he said he'd run hot water. And he said, opening day, my field was ready. And, but it was because of chicken manure.
Remarkable what he did. It looked like Southern Hills Golf Course, And he was some groundskeeper. He was the best of them all. And enjoyed his work, and he and Grable Howlett were great friends, enjoyed the people. But it was a good thing for Tulsa. We drew a lot of people that had never seen baseball before.
Well, you in '63, you were the third largest attendance in all of minor league baseball in Tulsa. in 1963.
I was not aware of that statistic.
That's right. And I believe 64, you were number 4 in the nation. And we're talking about cities that now have Major League Baseball. You were outdrawing them. Well, now you had some people, that worked for you that were just outstanding. Can you give me a little synopsis? I'll name a few people, and you tell me about them. Mac Krieger.
Mac Krieger, I call him the Golden Voice. I still talk to Mac twice a week. He and Marge, and wonderful, wonderful man. And he was at KRMG then. And then Mac was our announcer, and a very good announcer. And I don't know if I've ever heard a better baseball announcer, play-by-play announcer than Mac Krieger. He was outstanding and a wonderful man.
Hugh Finnerty.
Hugh Finnerty was he was a snake oil man. He was a real promoter.
He could sell anything.
He could sell anything and do it in a way you felt like you're getting a bargain. we had a good relation for many years, Hugh Finnerty.
He was general manager, play-by-play. He did many different things for the ball club.
Oh, he sure did. I had one time it was a chore that I did not want. And Bing Devine called me one day, and we had Spahn as manager. That was my choice because...
This was 1971. Spahn had been the manager for 4 years.
And Warren, I was a hero worshiper when I was young. I liked Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. Warren Spahn to me was he was a great pitcher. And all he had to do was look at the record. He's the greatest left-handed pitcher in the history of baseball. Right. And I recognized that, and I thought it was a great asset to have him. I still do. But every time Bing Devine wanted Spahn to move along, he wanted him to come to St. Louis, wanted to be pitching coach. And he wanted replacement man. He was grooming managers, major league managers. He thought the guy in Little Rock should move to Tulsa a year or two. Well, Spahn, he was perfectly happy. He lived on McAllister, and it was a good thing for him to stay in. And Bing Devine didn't want it. So one day he called me. Bing's a very, very good baseball executive, very firm, very bright, and today he calls me every day. I talk to Bing Devine 5 days a week. Still today, and that's been a long time since I've been in baseball. We maintain a close relation. He flew in, nightly dressed, and Finnerty was in and out. And he says to me, "What's Bing Devine doing down here?" I said, "Well, he came down on a little mission. You'll learn about it in about 30 minutes, or maybe less than that. He came down to terminate Spahn." Finnerty said, He didn't talk to me about this. I said, he didn't talk to me about it. He told me, Hugh. And he's going to tell Spahn himself. He didn't want me to do it or anyone else or you to do it. He's going to tell Spahn on the way in here. And he did. Spahn would not come to St. Louis as a pitching coach or help the Major League Club, and he wanted to make places here for younger people coming up from Little Rock and that type of thing. That's the reason that he was terminated.
Yeah.
And Bing didn't make any money. And Finnerty, he threw a shoe, but he got over it, how those things go.
Tell me about Len Morton.
Len Morton was a good man. Len was a Mr. Enthusiasm all the way. And he was a loyal supporter of baseball and in particular the Oilers. And I think he still is and enthused about what he does. I haven't seen Len in a few years. Matter of fact, I'd like to see him. He was a friend and he's a good announcer.
Sure was.
Yeah.
Tell us about Andy Andrews.
Oh, Andy Andrews.
He made Oiler Park unique.
Sad, 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 tragic story. Now, shall we discuss it? I'm free to discuss it.
Well, not talking about his. No, just talk about him working for the team and come up with that. Yeah, we won't talk about his.
He had a tragic death. That's that.
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
Randy, he hitchhiked in every night from Barnesville. He was a baseball nut and an Oiler nut.
So he'd catch a car, and those days people did hitchhike, and safety. Not today, you probably couldn't do it. And he'd hitchhike down here from Barnesville. People knew him on the street, but you knew him out that's go Tulsa a bit. And every night he did that yell for years. And then he go back to later he moved to town. But he got to be a good salesman. He sold more season seats than anyone else. And people all knew Andy, and they all liked Andy. Every filling station, he sold the blue collar class sold season seats, and he'd give them terms and that sort of thing. And funny things happened in this game. We had a drawing one time, and I'll admit an indiscretion on it. We had two ladies. Never missed a baseball game. And they cleaned motels to live. That was the way they earned a living. So I arranged to have these through Bob Kennedy. He knew them. He took it. Bob Kennedy had a drawing, and he took 2 tickets in his pocket, unbeknownst to me. And they had these gals' lucky numbers on it. And they won a trip to Hawaii. And all those dream stories. And they got out there and got in a fight, mother and daughter, and came on home and never spoke to each other after that. Hawaii was wrong for them.
Yeah.
You better know the market when you get into that business.
Tell me about your relationship and your working relationship with Satchel Paige.
Oh, well, we'd be talking all day about that. I met Satchel Paige. He had played for the Miami Marlins when Bill Veeck owned it, and the general manager was Joe Ryan. So Joe then at that time was, I think he was working for Houston and Oklahoma City. Houston owned that club, franchise in Oklahoma City. And I wanted something for the 4th of July, and he said, why don't you bring my old friend Satchel Paige down here? And I said, get him. We got him on the phone. He talked to his wife. And she's from down here at a little town near Muskogee. Handsome woman. So I got Satchel, came down, and I got him for a 4-day 4th of July, for after Paige. So he grew on me, just a fascinating guy. And I just, after the second day, I said, well, why don't you stay down? And he'd look at me, see if he could get away from home. Kansas City. Gunny liked baseball. So I just made a deal with him full time, and with a deal that he'd go out and talk to kids and he did. He did a very good job, a very astute man, and a great baseball pitcher. Joe DiMaggio told me one time, if I had to name the best pitcher I ever faced, it would have to be Satchel Paige. He said he threw with such velocity when I was with the San Francisco Seals and he was barnstorming out here, I couldn't get the bat off my shoulder. It made such an impression, I couldn't hit him when he came to big leagues. He was an old man. He said, I still couldn't hit him. I never did. But he was the best he'd ever seen, Joe DiMaggio. And I think Joe would be a pretty good judge there of a good pitcher. Satchel Paige worked for me almost 13 years. And died of a heart attack. And he was a friend. We were, George C. Scott, called me one time. And he said CBS was going to do a film of Satchel Paige's life. And I think a 2-hour feature for CBS. And they did. And he said, would you mind riding down with Satchel? And I said, no, I'd be kind of an exciting trip. And we were at Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and they called it Mobile. George C. Scott, his wife was there, and they had this all of old cars in the movie lot and all that sort of thing. And going down there, we were just crossed over into Mississippi from, I've forgotten the name. There was a big lake there at this particular, where we crossed this into Mississippi. So Satchel was a compulsive buyer. Anything new, he'd try to buy it. Or any junk, he had an eye like an eagle. He'd say, stop, you want to see this, want to see that, want to see something else. He'd bought him a new CB. Now, he didn't know any more about a CB than I did, and I knew nothing, but he had this and driving his old Ford, see. So, you may want to scratch this, but I'll tell it anyway. Right. Driving along next morning, he's playing his CB, and he got her in, and he said, now, I didn't know Channel 9 was an emergency channel, so he said, Channel 9, Channel 9, big wheel from Mobile. How's the weather in Tulsa? No response. I said, Satchel, Tulsa's 1,000 miles away. You can't get... So he played with it a little bit. Channel 9, Channel 9. Big wheel from Mobile. How's the weather in New Orleans? Paul. Snowing down, nigger highs it up there. Now, he thinks that bothers me. I've heard that word 10,000 times. It doesn't bother me at all.
That's funny. Well, I'll keep it. I won't air it. That's cute. Let's stop for a second.
Well, the mistake was they didn't make any left-handed tools for dentists. He said, my mother was my first patient in Kansas City. And he said, I almost gave her lockjaw. I had those big old tools, and I couldn't do anything for her. She walked with her head down the rest of her life, he said. He made a big story out of it, which is totally untrue. But he did go to dental school for a year. Yeah. Dr. Stengel. What a remarkable man.
Now,
I think he's the best manager that ever lived.
Now, you had him at many of your diamond dinners.
He never missed a dinner. He always came to all of them.
I've got a 73 and a 74 diamond dinner on tape. I'll make you a copy.
Well,
and there's stories on there, and one thing is Hugh's on there. He's telling the same cornball jokes.
Yeah.
In those tapes he told right before he died. You know, the same corny jokes, but it was just, terrific.
Autry used to come to them.
Yeah.
One time he came to one, and his wife called Alice. Said, now, when Pat was coming with him, Buttram, Pat's only been dead a couple of years. Yeah. I used to talk to Pat all the time. Pat was remarkable.
Well, he was your MC a couple of years.
Oh, yeah. But Autry came in here once. I met him at the airport. He and Pat, both drunk. What's this hotel out here?
Sheraton Skyline.
Yeah, Sheraton, whatever it is. I took him there. The diamond dinner was the next night. Hell, I didn't even see Autry. He went in another room there, and Pat got drunk. Pat fell out of bed, and they had to get a damn crane almost to get him back in bed. He's a big cumbersome guy. The manager said, "We got to get him. Those guys out here to Autry." He said.
Let me ask the Texas League in the mid '60s. Tulsa had 6 straight years of making the playoffs and drew big crowds in the Texas League. And in after 1965, you work on moving Tulsa up to AAA. Why did you take the effort to move Tulsa to AAA? What was the reasoning behind that?
It's a little better quality baseball, and you do get name players of those coming down for marketing, merchandising the product. That's the reason that I felt it, and I still think it's a good move. I do the same thing today. Mm-hmm. But
how tough was it to talk the other members of the Pacific Coast League and letting Tulsa come in?
Well, I hadn't really no big problem with it. I talked to the other owners, and they applauded the move and didn't. Wait a minute. Pacific Coast League was a AAA club. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The only opposition I had was Oklahoma City. They didn't want us in it. They wanted us to say AA. They felt we'd compete with them on a AAA basis, which is nonsense,
Well, it was a great rivalry. No matter what the record, you want to come out to see Oklahoma City, and they'd want to come out to see Tulsa.
Better off AAA than AA. Well, then Houston took care of that for me right quick. Judge Hoffmines.
Now, you win the Pacific. You finished second in Pacific Coast League in '66. And let's talk about one year in particular. The '68 Tulsa Oilers was one of the best minor league baseball teams in the history of minor league baseball.
Today would beat 75% of the major league clubs today. They were good ball players, good baseball players, lots of talent, and I believe that. I believe that team today would compete in the major leagues. That's quality of play.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the difference? They see the uniforms, they come out to the ballpark, people like baseball. They don't distinguish the talent at that level, you know. Mm-hmm. There's a fine line there between a major league and minor league ball player, I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. I don't know who can tell the difference. It's the results count.
How did you give us a story about how Warren Spahn became the manager of the Tulsa Oilers back in 1967?
Well, he, big name. I thought Warren Spahn fell apart, you know, for us. It didn't after 2 nights all over. But he was a good manager. Warren Spahn, no fella ever worked harder as a baseball manager working with young players. Mm-hmm. The sweat run off his face. They're trying to teach these younger pitchers how to pitch. We had Carlton here for a year or so. Oh, no, 1 year, part of a year. Mm-hmm. He was something. Yeah. He wouldn't let anybody take his picture. Yeah, screwball. I talked to him about it. He said, "I'll run my own business." I said, "Run your own business." You know, he's always in that. Still is.
Well, he was not. He's not in any. He was with Tulsa for parts of 3 years, and he's not in any team picture.
He refused. You know where he lives now?
Colorado.
He lives out in a dugout mountain in Colorado, way out. He's a kook. I tell him that if he walked in here right now. You know, he's a talented fella, one of the great pitching arms. Mm-hmm. You know, he got mad in St. Louis and demanded that he be traded. And old man Bush traded him in 15 minutes. He said, "Well, I really didn't mean that." That's what he told. But they traded in Philadelphia.
Yeah. After the '68 season, Tulsa wins the Pacific Coast League, and then you're the main driving force behind the revival of the American Association. They had dropped out of professional baseball when Minneapolis went to the major leagues in '62.
You lost Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Milwaukee to major leagues. You see, that wrecked the American Association, and it was great heritage, the American Association.
How did you get it going again back in '69?
Well, I got the owners and pointed out that that historically was a great league, American Association, and who was in it. All you have to do is look at the clubs that was on major league, you see, and we revived it, and it worked. That was a great, that had a great legacy, the American Association. That's a reason behind it. And Milwaukee, Minneapolis, St. Paul. You know, Vic put Milwaukee on the map as a minor league city, not major league. Mm-hmm. That was the American Association city. Mm-hmm. Milwaukee. Beck owned Milwaukee, American Association. Beck was a baseball genius, that fellow. I know I had a nice ballpark up at Louisville, Kentucky, and spent my own funds on 90% of it. But I sensed we would have a good market, and did. Mm-hmm. Paul Richards is in there one night, just taking a look. I got some films of that. You wouldn't believe what you see in the films on that operation there. Mm-hmm. I'd like to have you look at it sometime. I got them around here somewhere.
I think I've seen that film. I think that was a training film on how to treat customers.
Was it?
I've seen that somewhere. It was a grocery store someplace, a department store, and then you. Okay. I saw it in training on
Tom Peters did him.
Yeah, how to treat customers.
Yeah.
How to treat customers.
But anyway, Paul Richards saw that ballpark, and you should have seen when I moved in there. Oh my! You couldn't believe what we did for that park. Mm-hmm. Paul Richards. I had a stadium club there, but any major league club in America, including the Dodgers, no one close to it. Built it herself.
Paul got on the phone and Bill Beck. He said, Bill, he was sick. You got to come down and see this. You, of all people, got to see what A. Ray Smith has done in Louisville, Kentucky. And he told him, take him some pictures, bring it back, and he was dead a month later. Beck was.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he did had some guy come out and do some film for him, take it back to Beck so you could see it. It was a remarkable stadium. It was nothing. When I went in there, they was running a bunch of chickens up in the main concourse. And manure everywhere, and it was just bad, run down. All the windows were broken in it, and but it had a spacious, big concourse. I got my eye that's quick.
Mm-hmm. In the mid-'70s, the Oilers do really well on the field. They win the association championship 73 and 74.
Yes.
And you have some great players at that time. Tell us a little bit about some of the players that's gone through Tulsa. Tell us about Mike Shannon.
Mike Shannon, outstanding. You see it from the day he walked in the ballpark, and he's an athlete. You had one of the disappointments I have, and I think he's the best young player that I have ever seen come into baseball, was Templeton. We had him in Tulsa. I've never seen the skills of a young man that Templeton had in Tulsa, and was never developed later on because he got on the substance.
Mm-hmm.
Sad how people can wreck a body that's so great.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows it now.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him last summer.
Yeah, he's coaching someplace?
Yeah, in San Diego.
Yeah, is he with the Padres?
Yeah, I don't know, minor league.
Minor league? Okay.
Yeah, but he was the best talent I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Young talent.
Tell us about how you talked Mike Shannon into, he was going through some rough times in Tulsa, and you talked him into staying.
Well, I don't...
When he was going to quit? He was
going to quit? Yeah, well... It was an interesting thing to see such a great talent, just nothing. And he said he was going, what are you going to do? He said, well, I can drive a truck. I said, well, you got a lot more talent than driving a truck. Not that there's anything wrong with a truck driver, and I told him that. Mm-hmm. They fill a void, but they have skills that you don't have, and you certainly have skills that they don't have. So why don't you stick to what you know, and it's baseball, and leave the truck driver and the truck driver, and they'll be better off, and you'll be better off. I came out pretty quick.
Yeah. Tell us about some of the greats of the past, such like Joe Patterson. What a crowd pleaser he was.
Sad Joe Patterson. I asked Bing Devine, Eddie Sutton asked me about 2 months ago. He said, Eddie used to be at the ballpark every time when he coached Central here. He's a baseball fan. He said, I want to know why Joe Patterson never went to the big leagues. Now, we're drifting into something now that could be a little controversial, but I don't mind drifting.
Okay. Well,
at all. Because, he said, Eddie Sutton said, why didn't Joe Patterson go to the major league? And I said, I'll find out. And I said, Bang, I had a call from Eddie Sutton. He wants to know why, and he's a baseball fan. He coached here in high school. He was in Sims ballpark all the time. Why didn't Joe Patterson go to the big league? Well, when they asked, wrong color. He was black. Like that. That's the answer. He's a little before his time.
They had flood.
But they had a quota.
Oh, okay.
They had a quota. Only, yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Another thing, I hired Bob Gibson and made a fair and square deal with him to manage the Springfield Redbird. What better man could manage the Redbirds than Lincoln's home? And that was vetoed in St. Louis. And I'd already made a deal with Bob Gibson at $50,000 a year for a 3 or 4 year contract.
To manage
the Springfield Redbird.
And the Cardinals didn't want you to have him down there.
Vetoed it. Wouldn't say why, but we knew why.
Yeah.
That's wrong. That's absolutely, ridiculously wrong.
Yeah.
And that influence is gone now, too.
Yeah. Tell us about Keith Hernandez in those pennant years, 73, 74. Keith Hernandez, what his influence was on the club.
Well, I'll tell you. Dale Mitchell told me once, and he saw him come up at 18 years old here. He says, he's a surefire Hall of Famer you can't miss. That's Dale Mitchell's
appraisal, Keith Hernandez, and he was that good.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what happened.
Yeah. What type of manager was Kenny Boyer?
Ken Boyer was a good manager and became ill. That's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Ken Boyer was a good manager and a good player, and I liked him personally, and he'd have made a fine big league manager. But illness got him.
Mm-hmm.
Cancer.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the $64,000 question.
Wait a minute.
1976, the ballpark is having structural troubles. For years, you've put funds in to repair it best you could. It looked beautiful. The field was still great, but the structure of the ballpark was beginning really to. It needed more than just a facelift. And tell us why the Tulsa Oilers left after the '76 season.
Simply because I was concerned, greatly concerned, that there would be a disaster at that park and we'd kill people. That's the only reason. I had structural engineers come in, and they confirmed that anytime you get more than 500 people, you're taking a big risk here. Mm-hmm. And I decided it just was not worth the risk to have I couldn't believe the possibility of killing 5 or 6 or 1,000 people. Mm-hmm. That's the reason I left. That's the only reason I left. I don't want to leave Tulsa.
Mm-hmm. And
what happened? The first game played after I left, it fell in. Mm-hmm. And that was a godsend that it had rain and no normal people in that stand.
Right. You moved the club to Louisville in '77, then Springfield, Illinois, and then you moved to Louisville, and the press and everybody says A. Ray Smith is a genius. But I remember an interview you did.
What did you say?
You were a genius, a baseball genius.
That's not.
Well, that's what.
I don't think I'm any genius.
Well, that's what the press said, because you brought Louisville. They had no baseball, and you had over 1 million people. But let me tell you what I heard you say one time years ago. I'm doing the same thing I'm doing in Tulsa. It's
nothing different. I gave a good playpen. It was clean. It was friendly. We catered to men, women, and children. No difference.
Is that the secret of running a good ball club?
Well, I think, well, of course I'm oversimplifying things, but if you have the facility, and you have the talent, and you have the players, that's all it takes to bring people to the park.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 1,000, I bet I got 10,000 articles in my files, wherever they are. And a great writer, an Associated Press writer. I'll send you, I've got copies of it around here one time. He wrote a long column. He's a nationally known writer, mm-hmm. Associated Press, from North Carolina. A lot of writers come from North Carolina, as you know. And he wrote a long column about the baseball park in Louisville, Kentucky, and I cherish it.
Mm-hmm. One thing, can you tell us the secret of those hot dogs? Those were the what's this?
I could never betray that. I could never betray the secret of our hot dogs, because I told people, thousands of people, are the best in the world, and some of them believe me.
Those were the best hot dogs ever.
But I'll tell you this. We had a concession manager out at Oiler Park named Eddie Rabkin.
Right.
And I wish I had taken a picture, a film of him when he would check out the wieners. And he made a ritual out of taking a wiener, and he'd put a little bit in, and he'd taste it, and he'd take another taste. It was the same damn hot dog. we bought. I was with Clint Merckson Jr. and I went out with him to his new football stadium for a wiener check. I was telling him the story up here, and I said, "Hell, you're going to get the best for the money, and you're going to what are you going to do this ritual? Taste? I went out with him to taste his hot dogs." But hot dogs are baseball, mm-hmm. and baseball is apple pie in America.
Right.
It's a great sport, mm-hmm. no question about it.
Well, it's different than other sports. It's a different pace.
Number one, it takes they talk about the slow game of baseball. That's the most ridiculous argument. Can you hurry up a chess game? You can't. It takes lots of talent to play baseball. You take Ted Williams will argue that the most difficult feat in sport is hitting a baseball at 100 mile an hour for a batsman.
Well, Ray, after years in Louisville of drawing over 1 million people, you sell the club. Is it 92 when you sold the club?
Yeah, I believe it.
You sold the club in 92 and retired. And what are you doing now in retirement here in Tulsa?
Well, I enjoy it. Matter of fact, I'm writing a book.
On your baseball life,
people,
or just
people,
the people you met?
People I've met in my lifetime.
Well, I hope it goes well.
And I work a little on it every day, and I hope to have it completed in 3 or 4 more months. I've had a lot of good experiences that I want to share. For example, 1944, through people, and people make everything. People, it's my book, People, that's the name of it. I was in a situation with some people in England, service during war, and I was invited to Albert Hall in 1944 to have Thanksgiving dinner with Mr. and Mrs. Churchill. And there was 50 of us, Americans there. And old Churchill sat there and drank a bottle of scotch. And what a remarkable man. He could talk better drunk than 90% of the people could sober. And then he went into this great and wonderful day. My mother was born in a little village in Indiana, Spencer, Indiana, and went into great detail. I did not know his mother was born in the United States until that time. Did you?
Yes.
Well, I did not know that at that time.
Yeah.
And that was a 4-hour show, and of course, food, wine, everything. Yeah. And then about 50 people, including the ambassador, was there, and people that I knew and happened to be there that day. And that was one of the highlights of my having Thanksgiving dinner with Churchill in 1944, and Mrs. Churchill.
Tell us, in one highlight year after year was the Diamond Dinner. I heard people tell me that that was the best baseball winter meeting. It beat the Diamond Dinners and many other major league clubs.
Well,
you had Stengel and Autry and DiMaggio.
People made the Diamond Dinner. People, it wasn't the facility, it wasn't the food, wasn't this. But, people liked to come. Casey, I built it around Stengel. Stengel was my pal. And if I had any problem with anyone, like Mantle, get out there and go to that dinner. Man, Casey'd call for me. He's my fence, you see, to get people. And he didn't like Autry, Casey. And I shouldn't mention that, but he didn't. Well, I don't care. He didn't. And so it's still a fact, and Autry's still around to enjoy that. But we had the best baseball dinners in the land because we had the best people and the best guests. And we had them from. Don't forget, we had some big names.
Well, the ones I attended had Mays and Mantle and Al Kaline, Roger Maris, Kenny Boyer. All the top stars would come each year.
Mantle he was a regular. Bench became a regular. Johnny Bench, Billy Martin. Oh, he'd fight him to come. Billy liked it, and. On and on, because it was a nice evening. It was good fun, lots of fans. Bing Devine said it was the best baseball dinner in the land. And Bing was our featured speaker one year. Oh, I'll tell you a guy that liked that dinner. It was the old sports writer from the Houston Post, Morris Frank. He said that's the best dinner in the land in any baseball functions.
Well, that was certainly a credit to you and your planning and all that.
It was just people you run into and ask them to come participate, and that was it. We never paid anyone, not one penny. Never.
Well,
I doubt if that would work today. I don't know. John Ferguson and I talked about that. Could you put on a baseball dinner today? And his opinion is, without the big bucks, no. And I think it's sad.
Yeah,
it really is.
That's right.
I've been considering taking that on and do it for the right cause, the right charity.
Right.
You see, I believe you could do it. It may not be as good, but you could have a reasonable facsimile of a baseball dinner.
Mm-hmm. So that's right.
And I've been thinking about the right cause, and that's hard. It sounds easy, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But get the one that would mean the most to whatever cause you select. Mm-hmm. That's important, and then do it that way.
Well, one thing that when I was in PR and things like this, I remember when you would announce the Diamond Dinner, you'd always announce the Diamond Dinner and one guest, one headline guest, and a couple of local people. 2 days later, another big guest, and a couple of more. You would string that out, Ray? That would just, I mean, it was, man, who's coming next?
John Ferguson challenged me on that. You know who's going to come. You know who's going to come. But he's always nice about it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm going to tell you, but I would have a guest a day for 30 days. A name.
Yeah.
And we did it that way. And I don't know that that's unfair press.
No. You would announce that, Willie Mays and Jim Brewer and Frank Lindsay are going to be there. Man, and then 3 days later, it's Casey Stengel along, with two. It was just, you drag that out and get more publicity out of that?
A guy that became ill was was going to come. And he couldn't even talk. He had laryngitis. Ted Williams. I had arranged for Rooney Company to send our jet down, pick him, and fly him back. He couldn't talk. Well, he's no good at dinner if he couldn't talk.
Yeah, that's right.
And DiMaggio would come. I did him a favor once. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
Joe DiMaggio, I had met casually somewhere or other over the years. Joe's a nice man. And I think I had him come to had him at a dinner in Springfield once, and I used some people that knew him and Lefty Gomez one day, and he came. I got a call from him one day, and he said, "I need some advice, and I need it pretty quick. If you can help me," he said, "I'm about to sign a contract with some." Producers and developers out in New Mexico, and they want to call it Joe DiMaggio Properties. And I said, well, now, before you sign that, you've called me. If it's oil property, why don't you just hold up until send me the maps, send me information, and I'll get a geophysicist here in Tulsa to look at it, geologist, and give you a report in 2 days. And he did. It took 2 days. Man still living here in town. Did it for me. Doctor, whatever, he's a geophysicist. He said, they're taking him bad. So I said, I sent a wire to Joe DiMaggio to call me at this geophysicist number. And he did. He dropped it like that, and it saved him a lot of embarrassment, what it amounts to. Joe DiMaggio. They're using him bad. And every time I see him yet today, he remembers that.
Yeah. That's a good story.
Yeah. Now you better call old John and Ferguson, because he told me he was going to talk.
Well, I'm going to call him. I told him I was going to talk to him too.
John's a good man.
He sure is. There's not many like him around on writing. He just reports the fact. He doesn't. Yeah. Where were you last night? And he's strictly a baseball man.
He's a fan.
Yeah.
And, he was grateful for something I did for him once, and I didn't even give it a thought when I did it. I had Bob Feller here. Bob was here last week.
I went out and saw him.
Good.
He's a great man.
One night at the ballpark, I wrote out a testimony. It was, I believe, for Bob Feller.
Well, it was for Satchel Paige.
Okay.
We're talking about, this was in '73. You had Satchel Paige night at the ballpark. Okay. And you wrote out an introduction for the presentation of Satchel.
For John Ferguson to read, and he didn't stutter one time.
I know that. And he
thanked me 100 times for having the confidence in him to do that.
I was in the booth with Jack Campbell that night, and I said, "Oh, are you going to read this?" He said, "No." A. Ray said, "Fergie's going to do it." And I looked at Jack. I said, "Fergie?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You wait. You just wait." And I said, Okay. So I left the booth. I didn't want to be. I loved John, and I didn't want to be in there with him struggling. And he read that like he was an opera singer.
I suspected this.
He read that.
He's grateful to this day that I had the confidence in him to do that. He can do it as a ham actor.
He read that, and then after it was over, you know what he did? He turned the mic off, and he gave the mic to Jack Campbell, and he says, "Thanks, Jack." I mean, he read it. It was like, ladies and gentlemen, now presenting.
Exactly.
And it was just amazing.
Oh, he sounded like Branch Rickey.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Mr. Rickey is my friend, too.
Well, let me tell you. Tell me a story about Branch Rickey. He used to come to Oiler Park and evaluate players when he was with the Cardinals. And
the greatest judge of talent in the history of baseball. He was an owner, executive,
player,
and we became friends, fast friends. And I used to spend the night with him in St. Louis. And he made the remark to me one time. I just really wish we could have met 30 years ago. My, what things we could have done together. And I still revere that today. Alice, get the letter that Mr. Rickey wrote me. Mr. Rickey wrote me a letter. I want you to read it.
Okay.
She said, which one? There's several.
Yeah. She said, which one do you want?
I want the one where he started before he died.
Okay, let me see what I find.
Yeah.
Is it true that
He when he told me that time. My, what things we could have done together. Now, I don't know what he meant really, other than the fact he enjoyed working with me.
Mm-hmm.
We had a good relation.
Yeah.
Now he told I still use this all the time. He called me in St. Louis and said, "I'd like to have you be my guest at the World Series." He'd already called. He said, "I've talked to Calvin. We have tickets, and I've talked to Bob Short, and we have rooms at his hotel." Hell, he gave us the whole floor. Short did the whole Leamington Hotel, the entire floor. So Ricky and myself, Bob Cobb came in. Bob Cobb owned the Brown Derby restaurant.
Uh-huh.
Bob Cobb married a gal from Miami, Oklahoma. I didn't know till that night, he told me. But we were all there in the suite. And Cobb was drunk when he got there, and he's hitting that booze good. And he was telling jokes, one half the other. He owned that Brown Derby, heard them all that. And Ricky laughed like hell. You know, he said, I never told him all story color, but I listened to him. Bob was telling how many he told the gals and one thing and another. But Bing Devine, Eddie Matthews was dating one of the Bush gals on the sly. You may know about it.
It was in Jack Buck's book. Jack Buck's new book.
I think that's one you
Hi
want.
there.
Oh, Jack mentioned that in the book?
Sure
Does he?
He mentioned that in the book.
Oh, yeah, read it. That's a personal letter.
Is it true that Warren Spahn? Is it true that Warren was really upset when he didn't get to manage in the big leagues?
Probably.
I've heard that he was really
Probably, and he shouldn't be, because all you have to do is look at the records. There have been no successful big league managers or pitchers.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know why, but it's true.
I've got my grandfather passed away about 20 years ago. Underneath a rug in his attic, we found a front page of the St. Louis Globe-Democrat from October 18th, 1931, of the world champion Cardinals. There's a picture of Branch Rickey on it. And he and Sam Breeden.
Mr. Rickey, I used to meet him in New York once in a while. he was really a highly regarded man, and we were friends. He was very close to a mayor there in New York, and the fellow that built the Shea Stadium. Bill Shea and him are real close friends. I met him up there 2 or 3 times. Bill Shea and Mr. Rickey. Yeah.
It's, to have invented the minor league system and to, have integrated baseball.
Rickey is the best baseball executive of all time. No question about it. He told me one time that, I guess it took him 3 hours we were together, but why and how he signed Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
It was his playing ability.
Yeah.
And the fact, he said, I had 10 candidates, he said. 10. But I wanted someone with an education background. And he said, I talked to Robinson 2 hours. I built my hotel in New York City. I said, Mr. Robinson, what are you going to do when they call you a nigger? What are you going to do? He said, Mr. Rickey, I'm going to pop. Oh, my goodness, that'll ruin everything. If you do that and you take that position, the project's over. It'll never work. So he got him to agree. For 2 years, he would not talk back, whatever they called him.
Mm-hmm.
And Rickey said, my goodness, at the end of that 2 years, he sure let it fly. But he worked it that way.
Well, one of the guys he was thinking about was Marv Williams, who played for Tulsa in the mid 50s.
He mentioned his name. He's one of the 10. Marv was.
Yeah.
Satchel Paige won. We said Mr. Paige wouldn't fit what we needed, the problems we had. New York press, critical, that type. And he's right.
Mm-hmm.
He carefully selected Robinson. Robinson wasn't a great player. An ordinary player.
Mm-hmm.
Not a good arm, but he quick and that type of thing. And he did the job he wanted him to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What that amounted to. That's Rickey.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Ray, I appreciate this.
Well, you're more than welcome.
What else?
It's been interesting, and I'm sure we've hit a few highlights.
Okay.